Wisconsin week is here. A team, Gary, that I feel like the Huskers have a decent actual rivalry with. It's not anything to write home about right now, but I remember a time when Nebraska and Wisconsin really hated each other. The Huskers remain in the hunt for a bowl game, just need to win one of these last two games. I tell you, I was riding high after that 3-game win streak, but I'm all the way to the point where I'm terrified of the deja vu I'm experiencing going into a week against a team that's on a losing streak, thinking that technically we should be able to get that win because they're on the way down, but like we've said, we are the elixir for teams on a losing streak lately. So I'm all the way back to the Huskers got to prove it. There's no reason that I should be sitting here, and I am not sitting here thinking that we're going to win this game. It's sad to be back, but it feels like home. Hit that like button for us. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and tell us in the comments who wins Saturday night, Nebraska or Wisconsin.
I think most people are worried about this game one from past history between the two programs, where even when we were closer to their level, you'd have Melvin Gordon run for 9,000 yards in one game or pick a running back. And then when Nebraska really hit their downfall, they were one of the many teams that just teed off on us once a year when we played them. They're in the middle of a full rebuild, both culturally, systemically, style identity, all that. They're going more to a spread out and pass all over the field type offense, getting away from what we're used to seeing as far as their running game goes. And they're having hiccups with it. Whether it's going to work or not in the future, I don't know. They're dealing with injuries much like we are. Braylon Allen, who's been their guy, he's been banged up. I don't know if we'll see him, or if we do, how much of him we'll see. They've had a couple different quarterbacks at different times depending on things, but whether it's because the West is underperforming so bad this year, or Nebraska has made overall a jump bigger and faster than people may have anticipated, which I know sounds crazy to say because so many people are upset it's not happening quicker. This is another game that Nebraska on paper going in should win, but again, they're going to be their biggest opponent in turnovers. They've really cleaned up the penalties, the shooting themselves in the foot as far as that goes. The offensive line costing them games hasn't been the situation. The defense, we talk about that week in and week out about how good they've looked. And last week, they really started getting some takeaways. The only real question going into this game is Nebraska going to beat themselves with turnovers? Or are they finally going to fix it or greatly diminish it and win a game they should win? You go back to every game on the schedule this season, aside of Michigan, I would argue even Colorado, if you can just protect the ball, and especially when the turnovers happen, A, don't take points off the board, and B, don't give them 1st and 10 at their, at our 30, right? So the two sides of the turnovers are backbreaking, man. It's hard to survive turnovers. It's impossible to survive turnovers when you're taking points off the board, especially when you're an offense. It's tough to come by points. And when you're giving the ball to offenses that can punch it in, and you're already letting them start off in field goal position. So I don't think either team is drastically better than the other in any one area. I would say maybe aside of our defense, I think it's going to be very tough for them to get in the end zone on us, but we kind of have that bend but don't break type defense. So this could come down to a game of field goals, but if you're going to turn the ball over once you start getting into the field goal range, or you're going to start calling plays if you run the ball into field goal range and then decide you're going to start throwing it when you get down there and give it right back to them. That's what I mean, man. What have the quarterbacks that are going to play, most likely early on at least, Sims and Chuba and possibly Harburg if need be? And what did the coaches learn, man? What did Satterfield learn? What did Rule learn about the amount of leeway he's going to give, or what they're going over in practice as far as, is that value going to be put on field goals? Because we talked in a little bit in the stream Saturday, and then that post video we did, you've got to be content with this type of an offense getting field goals. I mean, we could go back through every game and make a 2-hour-long video of all the points left, just field goals, where you've taken yourself out of field goal range or given the ball back to them when you're in field goal range. And definitely 2 field goals, you sealed up a bowl game a long time ago. So honestly, the glaring issue going in is Nebraska going to hand the ball back to Wisconsin enough that they don't win the game, or are they going to protect the ball and seal the deal? Finally get the bowl game secured, finally get a little bit of momentum, have some confidence, at least in ball security, maybe a little bit more confidence in your offense's ability to score, even if it is just field goals. But it's just, to me, it's that simple. It's the glaring issue that just lingers on and doesn't seem to get fixed. And I think it's a crapshoot. I mean, all signs point to no, it's not going to be fixed. But I think if you can get in and out of that game with 2 or fewer turnovers, depending on when they are, if they're 2 of them, the last 2 drives of the game, obviously you're talking something different. But just a general statement, man, if you can minimize those turnovers, your defense is more than good enough for you to win. Run game's more than good enough to get you at least field goals on the board. It's just, can you get out of your own way?
I'm going to predict a low-scoring game. I'm seeing, I know it's repetitive, but 13-10, somewhere in that range. Our offense is bad enough. We literally have to run the ball, but we want to pass the ball. They've got a cornerback, Ricardo Hallman, who's got 5 interceptions already this season. That could take away half the field if we're smart enough not to throw that direction. But the twist is, I think Wisconsin's going to win. And maybe part of that is me just trying to be negative for the reverse psychology aspect of it. But yeah, I just don't have the greatest feeling going into this game. My spirits are down on this team. I know they can win, but our quarterback situation, I saw somebody comment, if Jeff Sims plays, I'm not going to watch the game. Obviously, we'll be watching the game and streaming the game, but I'm expecting a really gross, ugly game, and I don't think it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't completely disagree with you. I just keep thinking especially if Braylon Allen isn't in there, and as good as our run defense is, if they're not able to run the ball much and they already want to throw, they're just not very good at it yet. Early on, I think Wisconsin can find themselves in a situation where they're getting into a lot of 3-and-outs and their defense starts really getting wore down. And again, if the coaching staff, the quarterbacks can stay out of their own way, I think that sets up perfect to keep our defense fresh, really start wearing on theirs. And even if you just settle for field goals, if teams are going 3-and-out, you got it locked up, especially with a defense like ours. The downside, we haven't seen that. We haven't seen a sign of limiting turnovers or Satterfield, especially with the coaches going, okay, let's stick to our bread and butter and just keep running the ball down their throat. I do have a little bit of a feeling this could be the game where that finally happens, especially you're going to be going to a quarterback who hasn't been the planned full game starter since Harburg really took over. Now that he's obviously not going to start, I do kind of expect a little bit more run, a little less pass, especially some of the deeper type passes. I'm going to go the other way reluctantly. I'm going to say Nebraska gets a touchdown, 3 field goals. I'm looking like a 16, and I'm going to say 6. I'm going to say Wisconsin gets a couple field goals because of maybe a turnover in the bad spot, and they don't have to move the chains too much. I don't see their offense moving the ball a lot on our defense. I see a low-scoring game. Just for the sake of making a prediction, I'm going to say 16-6 Nebraska.
Tell us what you guys think in the comments. As usual, give us your score predictions. Can't wait to see you guys for the stream Saturday evening. I'm excited to not have to wake up super early on a Saturday, not going to lie. Until then, go Big Red.